The next order of business is the approval of the minutes for our last meeting that was on May 16th, 2024. Ms. Daddy, are there any corrections that you would like to make?
No.
All right, I'm okay with minutes, you're okay with minutes, and we'll consider the minutes approved. Oral communications. So you're going to have lots of chances to communicate on anything we discussed today. So unless there's something unique you want to say now, I would say maybe wait till a little later in the meeting. But does anyone wish to communicate to us under oral communications? All right, very good. Then we will move to the one real item we have on our agenda. It says public input on Winn Room remodel options and project objectives. So here's what we would like to do. First, I want to remind you of what the council asked us to do. The council was presented 5 options in December of 2023, and then the 5 options that are around you. When Mr. Hines and I were the subcommittee, we kind of said, you know, the Spreckles Room or the Senior Center, that we don't see a lot of opportunity there. But the council said, well, we're not quite ready to abandon that option. And the council also wanted to make sure that we had studied each option as thoroughly as we could. So in December, they kicked us back into session to take a look at these 5 options one more time. And so at the successive meetings we've had of this subcommittee in the year 2024, we've systematically reviewed each option to make sure the sound attenuation is there, to make sure we understood the AV, to make sure we knew what the costs were, to get as good a sense as we could of the pros and cons of each option, and to make sure we had as good a sense as possible of what it would cost to do the most limited model, the first option, and the most visionary or expansive model, the last option, option 4. Lastly, there is a 5th option looking at the Spreckles Room and trying to figure out to what extent could we have gatherings there that could augment or supplement what the Winn Room has done in the past. So what I want to invite you to do now, there are some stations in the back of the room, and I want to give you one last chance to check out each of those options individually at your leisure. I'm saying that's what we would like you to do now for maybe the next 5 minutes. When I observe no one is looking at any of those options, I will recall this meeting back to order, and then we will go option by option. And this is your last chance before this goes back to the City Council to give your feedback on option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, and the Spreckles Center. So again, I'm going to give you the next 5 minutes roughly to make sure you know what you want to say about those options. And when no one is standing by any of those sections, I will call us back to order and start soliciting your feedback on each option one at a time. So this meeting is in recess. They'll just look at this grid the whole time. That's not going to change. That's good. But I appreciate it. All right, thanks. Again, at this point, the purpose of today's meeting is to give you, the public, the chance to comment on any of these options as you see fit. And obviously, that comment could be along the lines of that you're supportive of one of those options, and I want to let you and the council know why. It could be that you are not supportive of one of those options. We want to let you and the council know why. And of course, there could be something that I haven't even thought of. But this is our last chance as a subcommittee to collect your feedback. This meeting's video recorded, so again, the other 3 council members are certainly welcome to watch your comments. This will be posted on our website. So again, if the public is like, I didn't get a chance to go here, what was the sentiment of the people who showed up, it'll be available there as well. But the council, at some point we have to do our job, and our job is to look at these options and then see if there isn't a preferred alternative, and then to start determining what the cost will be, what the timeline will be, and so on. So this today is your last chance to comment before it comes back to the city council. So we'll move, and also we're gonna leave this up here. That way, if you need a visual reminder of something that you liked or didn't like about one of those 5 options, it's there to help, cue you into that point if that's something you want to talk about. Your comments, we ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes per option. So again, that would give you a chance to speak up to 15 minutes. And again, if there are 20 of you, we might be here till 10 p.m., so be judicious. But you have a chance to comment on each of these items, so you could talk up to 5 times. The city clerk will keep the timer on your 3 minutes, as will I. So now we'll start about option 1. Did anyone from the public, I'm sorry, Ms. Downing.
You don't have to speak 5 times. If you want to get up there on option 1 and say, this is my favorite, I don't need to talk about the others, then that's fine. Then you can stop. So please don't feel you have to come up every time.
Agreed. All right, so we'll start with option 1. Did anyone from the public wish to comment on option 1? All right, we'll move then to option 2. Did anyone from the public wish to comment on option 2? And please come forward. We'd ask that you just state your name and then limit your comments to 3 minutes or less on option 2.
Option 2, my name is Pam Schutz and I'm a resident here. Option 2 keeps the existing footprint, but it improves the AV, raises the ceiling, makes the sight lines much better, and it costs more like $3 million rather than $9 million. So given that we're not improving parking at all, and we're increasing the size of the venue with the other options, this one just makes the most sense. You're putting money into it, you're upgrading the experience, but you're not overdoing something that you can't really provide parking for.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Harold Myers, and I would say option 2 too. I thought the purpose of this meeting on the agenda was to discuss the purpose of the Winn Room, finally. That's what the agenda item said.
So as a point of order, if you want to do that as part of any of your 3 minutes, you're certainly welcome to.
So I'll ask, what do we need more? A meeting room where we can hold community discussions, or a performance center to bring more attractions to Coronado? We might wind up with a result that satisfies neither need. Do the citizens want to draw more across-the-bridge visitors to our library? The current size works well for most community meetings. Its size facilitates citizen interaction and discussion. A larger facility may not work nearly as well. Keep in mind that the number of attendees to most events is less than 50 people. I've repeatedly heard the claim that lecturers and authors require a minimum 200 seats before agreeing to book a venue. So I put that to the test by checking the size of other library assembly rooms in San Diego County. I looked at a total of 53. Out of those, only 6 have over 200 or more seats available. Some other examples are Del Mar, 39, El Cajon, 60, Encinitas, 150, Fallbrook, 130. I also checked San Diego branch libraries. Carmel Valley, 141, La Jolla, 100, Pacific Beach, 95, Point Loma, 122, and so forth. Santa Cruz, 76. Let's keep the Winn Room free. I realize that it is common practice for most cities to require insurance, but Coronado is not like most cities. I understand that a larger venue may bring more risk to the city, but the city has self-insured the current sized room without losses. Finally, remember that the park has been declared historic in 1974 by resolution number 8029. You voted on it. And any intrusion into the park requires additional historic review. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Francette Roeder. I am a resident here of Coronado, and I'm for any of the options, but I especially echo what Harold Myers said with option 2. I don't see any reason to have any other option without charging people who are away. Why should we pay for people coming from San Diego or for tourists using the Winn Room? And I think if we have a larger facility, they will pay, they will have to pay. That is the only thing that I would agree with option 3 or option 4, is if you get people who pay who are not from Coronado. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Marilyn Field, 1101 First Street. I agree with Harold. Number one, although the option 4 is absolutely beautiful, where are people going to park? I don't like the idea of the destruction of the trees in the park, and I think option 2 really hits the most needed changes and would satisfy our needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Youngblood, Coronado resident. I really appreciate the attention you guys are doing to get feedback from the community. I think the park space is really just priceless. I've been here for 10 years and have been to just countless library-sponsored activities at the park right next door. Bubble days and Quidditch matches and just messy, fun things where you can take a bunch of kids and not cross the busy Orange Avenue. And it's just petting zoos. I mean, I could just go on and on. Root beer float nights in the summer. I see high school kids hanging out there. So I'm a big fan of not increasing the footprint of the Winn Room. And then I've also attended so many meetings in the Winn Room and hosted meetings in the Winn Room. And it's so easy. The library staff is amazing. It's so user-friendly. I actually just did something this past Sunday with a couple of dozen parents, and it just was, I mean, it was a treasure. So just for keeping, you know, it accessible, free, can you beat that? And not expanding the footprint. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I have a problem with option 2, and it's purely financial. Here's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You'll hear me say this again. My name is Helen Kupka, by the way. I'm sorry I forgot to introduce myself. Anyway, for $4 million, I would hate to see the city spend that kind of money. And you might as well just paint the walls and put on some new carpet, because you're not going to gain much by doing that. Even the ceiling option, I don't see how it gets it to $4 million, but then, you know, it's private money. But I think this is an opportunity to do something wonderful, and I think we're short-sighted if we only focus on people coming from out of town. This town thrives on the visitors who are a third component to our wonderful population.
Thank you. All right, so we're on option 2. I don't see anyone else jumping out of their seats. So I'm going to move on. Yes, did you want to comment on option 2?
Do we get to comment on anyone?
You can comment on, if you would like, you can comment on all 5 options, although we don't necessarily encourage it, but we encourage you to come up here.
Hi, I'm Frank Spitzer. Well, 1 or 2. In the past,
Any way you want.
any way you want.
Any one you
1 or
want.
2.
Any option you want.
We're on option 2, but
I'm
you can
saying-
make another comment if it helps you.
I'm saying 1 or 2.
Okay.
There's no need, but there's a want to go higher in square footage and what have you. but one or two. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Frank was the last person I saw jump out of his seat, so I'm going to move us to option 3. Did anyone wish to comment on option 3? All right, this is going differently than I thought. Option 4. Would anyone like to comment on option 4 for the Winn Room?
Hi there, my name is Dawn Richards, and while I have already written you in conjunction with the Cultural Arts Commission, today I am here as an individual and as an original tree hugger. First, however, I would like to respond to Mr. Harold's remarks. With all due respect, the reason that Solana Beach and Encinitas and El Cajon and Escondido don't have large events in their libraries is because they all have performing arts centers. So that's where they have those functions. The Winn Room. Let's talk about how much money has the city spent on the golf course or lawn bowling. How much will they spend on Kays Park, which I am in favor of, by the way. However, let's not skimp on the Winn Room because this is the community hub. Mr. Myers also spoke about the role of libraries. Libraries in the 21st century are cultural hubs. That is their role now. We have turned away events from the Winn Room. We have turned away crying children wanting to see the Easter Bunny because the room is full. If we went with option 4, not only would we meet that 200-seat threshold, we would also be able to divide the room into 4 parts and have 4 community groups meet there simultaneously. So it would serve more of the community in more ways. Also, I would like to mention the trees. The trees are incredibly important. First of all, trees help improve our air quality. They lower the heat index in cities, and they're good for our mental health. However, as we found in the last meeting, we have hundreds of trees on this island, and none of the trees that might need to be removed for option 4 are the sole representatives on the entire island. One of those trees had another 144 cousins of the same kind on the island. So what I would ask is this: no one loves trees more than I, as you can see by my 70s attire and hair. However, are we going to let 3 or 4 or at the very most 5 trees prevent serving our community for all the functions that people have had and would like to continue having in the Winn Room? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mitzi Gary, and I've lived in Coronado for over 20 years. Absolutely love it. Came here on purpose for its beauty, temperature, and the community. I hate public speaking. That's my husband's purview, but I want to talk because I don't want to have the last word because I'm not a good wrapper-upper of a conversation. But I've been to countless meetings at the Winn Room. Absolutely enjoy it. It works for our ladies groups. It works for art things and educational opportunities. But I see option number 4, we can still have all that. We're not losing anything by going with option 4. We are gaining so much. We're gaining more seating. We're gaining seating that will be able to make the arts available to more of us. And for those of us who aren't ADA limited but are elderly, and there's an awful lot of us here in the community, that center aisle makes a huge difference because look at, I love Lambs players too, but if you don't have an aisle seat, there's no way you can safely get in there. So those front seats, otherwise we're limited to the marginal aisle seats, and that's very limiting in your life. And a lot of us don't leave the island very often, so bringing the arts here, whether it's our community arts, our high school kids, our whatever, the Winn Room is the place to have it. And also, we've noticed a lack of vision throughout San Diego County for so many things. We go, wow, how did we miss the opportunity? And you may not agree with me, but we missed the opportunity to put the football stadium right next to the ballpark. And we missed the opportunity to make the bridge go right to North Island, so we didn't have to interfere with the other neighborhoods. That was way before my time here. But you can tell I'm nervous. I got one more thing. It's just a shame to miss this opportunity for the future generations, because we thank God somebody planned Orange Avenue to be the way it was, and we thank God somebody built the Hotel Del, and other people have the money to keep it up so that it's a world-class hotel that has options for us. I don't know, good for the community. But trees can grow, and there's absolutely beautiful landscaping can make anything beautiful outside. So I don't see that as a problem, but to miss the opportunity to have the outdoor space as well as the indoor space for our community, that would be a real shame. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Mautus. I jumped up so I could follow Dr. Garahan, and I would also like to echo my support with that of Don Richards. Councilmember Downey, Councilmember Tanaka, good afternoon. I am here today representing the Board of Directors of the Coronado Philharmonia Orchestra. I wish to read this historic statement into today's record, and I've furnished a copy already to the City Clerk. The Coronado Philharmonia Orchestra made its debut in 2021 in partnership with the Coronado Library at the high school's Black Box Theater. It was a free concert then. Since then, we have partnered with the library for 2 more free concerts in the Winn Room that were attended by good-sized crowds, one of which is over the rated capacity of the room, as shown on one of the boards in the back. Our next chamber concert will also be in conjunction with the library as our partner sometime in September, but we can't announce the date as of yet. The CPO conducted an email vote ahead of this meeting with a majority of our directors in support of Winn Room renovation option number 4, and so authorized me to report this vote. Should the City Council request this endorsement of option 4 in the form of a board resolution, we would be happy to do so. Our next meeting is in 2 weeks. For my own comments, I would only encourage the City Council in your deliberations to look upon the Winn Room renovation issue as an issue facing the entire city, not just the library. The Winn Room renovation could represent an extremely important asset improvement to the community as a whole. As Don mentioned, we do not have a performing arts center in Coronado. We have a high school with a very fine performing arts center, which is under the control of the high school. To get a date booked into the high school, you have to make sure your date will not be in conflict with the high school, with the senior high school, with the middle school, with COSA, with the grammar schools, and also with the city of Coronado, all whom have higher priority rights than do private groups like our orchestra. So it's very important to us, and I would encourage your eventual support of option 4. Thank you.
I think you'll have some time, but I think it would be a good idea for you to maybe formalize that letter and maybe even include the attachment at the end of the board resolution as well. Were you, Mr. Matthews, would you be willing to take a question from Ms. Hammond?
I will try.
I'll fall out of my chair if you say no.
I'm meeting on Monday, so I don't think he'd say that. I'm trying to figure out, I've enjoyed going to all of the CPO's events over at the Coast Auditorium, but you can't fit in the Winn Room as you're currently configured as the full orchestra.
That's correct.
So how many of your members do you have when you're performing in the library room?
Well, the library capacity is 135, so we theoretically could have 134 musicians and 1 in the audience, but seriously. We normally, we've done, as I mentioned, 2 chamber concerts there with 3 and 5 musicians. As our budget improves over time, as we become a little bit more affluent in our ability to raise money, I'd like to see chamber concerts of a size of maybe 8 musicians, but no, there is no intention on our part to try to squeeze our full orchestra into the Winn Room or even the renovated Winn Room. We are a professional organization, so we need to pay our musicians, and we need to be in venues where we can have more ticket-paying members of the audience.
Which brings me to the question, you can't charge for your chamber and your Winn Room performance.
That's correct. That is our donation to the civic pride of Coronado.
Thank you very much for answering my question.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are still on option 4, if anyone cares to comment.
Good afternoon. I'm Phil Garn. I've been a resident of Coronado since 1983. This is a great opportunity to have a much improved public space. We need to think of the Winn Room, or the Winn Room as the Winn, more of a community center because it's the community hub, as opposed to the Winn Room, like the Spreckles Room, which is a place for quiet study. It's an opportunity for an investment in the future. The Winn Room has served us well for 50 years, but it's outdated. If we had had this meeting in the Winn Room as scheduled, pretty much everybody would be agreeing with me as you sit in the extra comfortable chairs with the lower ceiling, and you can't hear and see as much as you can even here in the Nautilus Room. So it's time for an upgrade. Also, option 4 gives us better ADA access, 2 access points, not just one, particularly if you're pushing someone in who's got a wheelchair. Also gives us wider seating for ADA. And again, it's in line with other upgrades that we've had throughout the years. The police station, the rec center right here, the lifeguard tower, and lifeguard offices. When I was a lifeguard, it was all in the tower, and it was a lot smaller, a lot less sophisticated. So it's an upgrade. It's also in line with other large projects like the Kays Park and the golf course, which don't really see as much usage as the library does. Also, like I said, this gives us an opportunity for something that is very flexible. It can seat 200 people, it can get authors, it can have different types of performances, and it can also hold multiple small groups. Right now, it can only hold one group. And for a lot of us, if we have a small group here in Coronado, it's not going to fit in our living room, which is most of us. The Winn Room is a place that we can go to and have a larger meeting for, again, our Coronado residents and their pursuits. Again, it's a great opportunity for an investment in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garn did bring up a point I wanted to comment on, that we did initially talk about having this last meeting in the Winn Room, because that would have been, appropriate and apropos, but we wanted to make sure that this meeting was comfortable for the participants. We didn't know if there'd be 100 people or 10, so we needed to pick a facility that we felt could handle 50 or 100 people if that happened, and obviously we didn't feel real confident that the Winn Room would do well under that strain. We also wanted to make sure that as far as city staff goes, they want to staff a meeting as well as possible, including giving you some video options, including recording this and posting it. So we wanted to make sure we could run an efficient meeting. So there wasn't any subterfuge. I just want to point out, and not that anyone's accusing us of that, but I know there was a little bit of confusion about why is it here and not there. We wanted this meeting to be comfortable, and we wanted to, again, be able to support 100 people showing up if that happened. And we knew we could do that here while having all the right audio-visual equipment, and we were really not confident we could do that in the Winn Room. So I just wanted to clarify that point. We're still on option 4, and this is your meeting, so feel free to comment.
Hi, my name is Janice Lowenberg. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I know some we haven't. You just outlined, Mr. Tanaki, all the reasons why we need the expanded version of the Winn Room, number one. So there you go, the audiovisual, the seating, the hearing, everything we need in this community. I'm hoping that we're not going to be short-sighted and do something less than option 4, because this city's growing, whether we like it or not, and this opportunity will not come again for a long, long while. Also, option 4, I love the outdoor patio space. It won't detract from the use of the outdoor space. It will expand the use, having it nicely landscaped, having it covered, having it accessible and free and open to anybody that wants to use it. That, forgive me, but the side yard is not very pretty on that library. And I think something needs to be done with that. The ramp, the other the vegetation, it's just some cement walkways right now. So having that outdoor space, how beautiful that would be, let alone the 200 seats that we need, which will allow the opportunity to expand to other communities and to other community events that we have here. And I just think anything less than option 4 is very short-sightedness. Just think if we had the bridge option to do over again. Three lanes in each direction, how wonderful that would be, let alone the traffic. I just really want to encourage the board to look at all of this and that not be so short-sighted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Doug St. Dennis, and I also want to speak in favor of option 4. That 600 block of Orange Avenue is the most spectacular block in town. And we have our beautiful library, which sort of began it all, and the park across the street. And then we have the Winn Room, which is such an embarrassment. And I will tell you, option 1 and 2 are Band-Aid solutions that next year people would be complaining about. Option 3 sort of gets there, but it doesn't. Option 4 checks all the boxes, not only of what we need today, but we're thinking 50 years from now. I love visualizing how things will be after I'm gone. And as I get older, it's something that's kind of fun to do. And well, it was interesting at the March 16th, or the last meeting where we had the tree presentation, and it was so comprehensive. And he mentioned that those trees, which seem to be the big point that everybody is worried, who wants to give up a tree? But those trees are 50 to 80 years old. And I was thinking, option 4, we built this architecturally beautiful building, an addition to an architectural historic treasure. And then for the next 50 years, we watch the trees continue to grow and be beautiful and create their canopy. And we deserve this. Coronado deserves it, and we always find a way to pay for what we really want. But the thing is to just make sure everybody really wants it and sees what a treasure it will be for us. I just want everyone's mind to be open to it. So that's my take on it, option 4.
Thank you.
Nice.
You're very uplifting there.
Jean Seeger. I'll just start out with just a little personal story. I've been on the board of trustees of the Friends of the Library only for a year. Prior to that, I was a big library supporter and went to a lot of events at the Winn Room. But it wasn't until I sat at the board meetings of the Friends of the Library Board of Trustees that I realized how absolutely inadequate the Winn Room is and how important it is to plan for the future. I mean, there's so many times that we've said, oh, we wish we had this space so we could do this, but we can't because we don't have the space. We don't know what we're going to want from a room like that in the future. And if we don't plan for the future, in another 10 or 20 years, the trustees of the Friends of the Library will be sitting there and saying, oh, I wish we could do this, but we can't, because 20 years ago, people did not look to the future. So I think it's really important that we're not short-sighted on this, that we build a fantastic facility for our fantastic community and our fantastic library, and let's all enjoy it and invite people from all of San Diego to come and see what a great, great place we have. So I think it's really, really important that we do the right thing now. And like Doug said, let's just see if we can pay for it. It seems to me like looking at all those boards back there, the only real downside to option 4 was the cost. Everything else about it is absolutely beautiful. So let's just try and see if we can do something to make it, to make it affordable for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Hello, my name is Angela Culbertson. My question comes to option 4 in terms of the money and the process to which the money is raised. I know that the Board of Trustees of the library said they were interested in raising those funds. I'm just curious if they had a donor step forwards that would start with a challenge grant of some sort, or if anything was discussed in terms of how to actually fund option 4. Because we're talking about how to spend the money, but I'm not sure how the money comes to be, I guess. So I don't know if you're able to speak to any of those questions or not, but that's basically what I would say about option 4. I have spoken with other people who have felt that that was a lot of money and they didn't know where the money was coming from. So perhaps when we're talking about spending it, we could also hear how it's going to get paid for.
I'll step in here since that is an interesting question to pose. One of the things our city councils have done for 2, 4, 8 years, we talk about things and then we don't necessarily get to the point of making policy decisions. And one of the policies we have to decide as a city council is what do we want and what are we willing to fund? So I don't know if Ms. Downey's gonna feel this way, but we need to own that. We've talked about the Winn Room since I've been on the council, rejoined since 2021. That was part of an earlier council decision to redo the Winn Room that I think came out of maybe 2018. And I was on the council 14 years before. I could have done something then. But I can tell you, we did, when we remodeled the library around 2012 or so, we did redo the Winn Room. And if you look around, there are some plaques to that effect, and the furniture in there was paid for with part of that library remodel. But in any event, the answer to that question is the Coronado City Council, for at least the last 3 years, has not reached a policy decision about how big it wants that Winn Room to be. In other words, we have not made an official decision about whether or not to keep it the same size or to expand it. And in 2021, we were given one option, whether or not to go right to option 4 or not, and we voted 5-0. We're not ready to go to option 4, and we want more information. And this subcommittee is an offshoot of that, of gaining more information. I am hopeful that the City Council will finally make a decision about what they want the Winn Room to look like. And then a second part of that process is the City Council then has to talk about the budget. So for instance, if the City Council did opt to go forward with option 4, we have to have that talk, we have to have that vote, and then we'd have to talk about, do we think that estimate is accurate and how do we want to stage it? And then we would give Ms. Friend direction on how to proceed. So we're not there yet. We as a City Council have not taken a vote on whether or not we want to keep, say, the current walls of the Winn Room as they are, and then to spend $3 or $4 million improving the furniture and fixtures and AV equipment, or do we want to do something bigger and more expensive? So I'll say hypothetically, if the City Council did move forward with option 4, then it would probably be our job to say, well, we're moving forward with option 4 because we think the city and its tax dollars should pay for this. So we don't necessarily need to move forward on option 4 only if we fundraise a certain amount. So we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because we have to decide as a council how big do we want this Winn Room to be. We have to then feel like, do we have an accurate estimate of what this new Winn Room is going to cost? And then we need to, as a council, take a vote on whether or not we're committed to paying that cost, or challenging the committee, the council, the community, and saying, you know, we would go with option 4, but we can only afford $5 million, and if you can raise the other 5, we'll do it. I don't want to cast that vote. If we're going to go forward with option 4, I think we have enough money to do it. So that's part of the deliberative process the city council needs to have. Now, I'm sure the city council would take a $5 million donation if anyone wants to give one. And that has happened in the past. But I would tell you that the job of this subcommittee right now is to take this last bit of feedback, to go back to the city council and say, do your job and make a decision already on what type of Winn Room you want to have. And part of doing your job as a city council is then saying, we estimate it'll cost X dollars, and let's move forward on saying that we're going to allocate that money and create a timeline and say this will get done in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. So again, I welcome your feedback. We welcome your feedback on option 4. Did anyone else wish to comment on option 4?
My name is Meredith Book, and I'm the CEO of the Coronado Island Film Festival, and I have been involved in this project since the architectural renderings, and we did so much research and conversation around these options, and so it is exciting to see it move forward and hearing all of the feedback, and so many individuals here today have so eloquently put forth some incredible points, probably much better than I could have. But also, taking my CEO hat off, I also sat on the board of the Coronado School of the Arts and had, as kids in Boy Scouts, I have used the Winn Room in so many various capacities, as have many people here. And it needs help. I think we're all in agreement with that. But option 4 really truly is the option that we all arrived at with the architectural committee, looking at this because it checks all the boxes. And as a creative arts community, this community has invested so much in the civic and the cultural arts, and that's what makes this community amazing. That's why people move here. That's why people send their kids to our schools, because 20 years ago, the schools became the next architectural, what do we need to make our schools, bring them into the 21st century. And we're there with this space. And this space definitely needs to be looked at from a very visionary standpoint. And Doug said it right now, it's embarrassing. And it is for us. We host an international event. And so we get the opinion of everybody coming into this facility. And really the comment is like, wow, this community is stunning, it's beautiful. They come over the bridge, they're just blown away. They walk in the Winn Room and go, this is what you've got. And it's a very objective point of view, but it's a real point of view, and it's the reality of the room. And along with the AV and many of these needs have already been discussed. I don't think that's in question. The room absolutely needs an upgrade. But I think looking at it from a historic perspective, and the city had to spend so much time and investment and feedback in preserving and creating what is going to be lasting. So it would be a shame to have all this conversation, all this community input, and talk about investment, talk about the vision, and not do the best that we can do right now, and create something that we will all be proud of, not just us, but our kids, their kids, and so on and so on. This community really is a gem in the entire city, the entire county, and people come here, and let's just live up to those expectations, and let's continue to really just invest in the community the best that we can do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
This is very formal. I'm not used to this. Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Sarah Kelly. I am a former student of Casey Tanaka. I was born and raised in Coronado. I'm now raising my children here. I am a loyal patron of the Coronado Library, and I understand and respect their desire for an updated meeting room to put on their enriching community events. I also want to honor the noble intentions of so many community members here and organizations who are intent to continue to provide art and enrichment for our community. I am requesting that you only consider design options and build-outs which preserve the mature tree canopy and green space on 6th Avenue. This is a magical corner in Coronado. The trees here cannot be replaced. The community benefits just as much, if not more so, from areas on the island that are not paved and built upon. This is a central area that provides quiet reprieve for our community, a gathering spot for kids and teens on the way home from school, and a space for contemplative walks, reading, and meditation, among other uses. I respectfully disagree that this green space is lacking. In fact, I feel it's magical. I feel that the downsides of option number 4 are not just the cost, but also the loss of these irreplaceable trees. I believe it is worth preserving for my own children and all children. Bigger is not always better, and we can find a solution that honors the needs of the library and our community while also preserving the spaces that make Coronado unique. Please consider this in your deliberations.
Thank you.
I'll introduce myself this time. Helen Kupka, I'm currently the president of the Coronado Community Foundation. So I'm in favor of option 4, and I realize that it's expensive, but I'd like to roll back to the current condition of the Winn Room because I've attended and been involved in setting up various things in the room. With options 1 and 2, the real drawbacks of the room haven't been addressed on the boards there. The room itself is a glass box that is extremely hot in a hot day. It has, when it says bad sight lines, if it's morning, the sun is coming in the east, afternoon it's coming in the west, it's very hard to deal with the room, and the airflow is non-existent. So not to mention access. You do have one access point, which is fine, but there are so many limitations that options 1, 2, and 3 don't even come near solving. I think, as everyone else said, this is an historic opportunity to do something wonderful. I know houses in the Ks, just rebuilding them cost what option 4 is. So although I think we can do a lot with that cost and understand it better, that isn't my stopping point. We can plan for it, we can wait for it. In terms of encroachment in the park, one gentleman here asked me, what does it mean to have this performance space in the park? If you look at the light in option 4, I don't think it's obvious. The walls go up on the north side, which is not a light sensitive area. The light streams in, you have more park inside outside. And I think we can work with the design to make an outside patio, which I think is critical, and the ability to open the doors and have performances that go out, or even just gathering spaces, civic celebrations that encompass the park and make the park even more usable. And I think we can make it beautiful and make the park part of the building. That's what I think.
Thank you. Did anyone else wish to comment on option 4? Right, the most colorful shirt, isn't it?
I'm wearing the designated uniform. I hope the word went out to everyone.
I noticed.
Hi, Carl Luna, President of the Friends of Coronado Library, long-term Coronado resident. Well, here we are, Master Samwise, at the end of all things, as Frodo said at the foot of Mount Doom at the end of Lord of the Rings. This has been a long process you guys have gone through. Years of discussion, and then this subcommittee came public for the last 4 or 5 months of talk. I want to compliment Council Members Downey and Tanaka and City Manager Friend for having an open, transparent process to bring in lots of different viewpoints about the Winn Room. Oh, and I want to thank Councilman Tanaka for pointing out exactly why options 1 and 2 don't work, because if you can't do a meeting like this in the Winn Room, it doesn't matter what else you do with options 1 and 2, it doesn't really kind of function for better events. But all that being said, I look forward to how this process now moves forward. I understand it's going to go to City Council, not with a recommendation from the committee. In which case, I look forward to reading your report, which I'm sure will try to capture as vividly as you can all of the sentiment that's been expressed from the dozens and dozens of people who have passion and commitment to this issue over the last few months. I really appreciate the wonderful mock-ups we now have to look at, and I look forward to seeing those in the lobby of the library so patrons have a chance to see it as they go through the library and the Winn Room. And if this matter goes to council in July, I look forward to you moving to table final decision until you move into the fall when there are enough residents around, not on vacation, not dealing with all the things we do in the summer, that the council can experience the richness of the conversation you've experienced. Because a good report kind of captures it, video kind of captures it, but I found that members of boards are very much like my students. They don't always do the assigned readings and look at the homework, and they hope that they can get by seeing what their class notes are. So I look forward to the council being able to have a good public discussion about this now, the fruition of all the work you have done. Ideally at a time when Coronadans are focused and can pay attention, and then make a decision that will benefit this community for the next 50 years. Thank you very much.
All right, last call. Did anyone else want to comment on this item, option 4? All right, there is a fifth option, whether or not to do more in terms of public investment in the grand room of the John D. Spreckles Center. Did anyone wish to comment on that potential option?
So, Dawn Richards, so the grand room. First, the staff is not hired on evening weekends, which necessitates bringing them in and paying them overtime. Second, it's still not enough room. As I mentioned in a previous meeting, we can look at the number of seats. However, unless people are standing with cocktails and we just have a small group of performers, it's still not enough room. If you want to have anyone sitting at tables in the room, that takes away so many of the seats. Also, there is no proper stage, and if you want to have performers, that takes out many more of the seats. We had, for example, Villalobos in there. They had 8 cellos and an oboist. That's not many performers, but it still took up so much room. And then no one from the middle of the room to the back could see the performers, except for the few that were on a stage we borrowed from the library. So also, it is so heavily used by the seniors, the senior center, which of course is what it's for, so we're happy about that. It's also used by Parks and Rec. It is heavily, heavily used. If we had Dana Welsh here, she could confirm how heavily used the grand room is. And then to expect it to take on library events, either it would take away from the seniors using the center or from the Parks and Rec classes. So I just don't see how that could be a viable option. Other people have said, well, what about the high school? Well, that belongs to the high school. It doesn't belong to everyone else. And on the days the school isn't using it, then they use that as a means for making some extra income, which they need. So we can't expect to always be in there. Additionally, if you're only having an event with about 200 people, then the performers worry. I was asked by one of the women authors of the book Unwavering, Dawn, I mean, were there a lot of people there? She was very concerned about that. And I said, yes, there were. Know that that holds about 560 or 70 people. And then she said, oh, okay, so we did have a good turnout there. But if you're only having 200 people, it just doesn't look like much when the whole rest of that is empty. Additionally, you have to schedule so far in advance. And if the kids have any kind of performance or play going on, then you have to work around their sets. The same is true of Lambs and the Coronado Playhouse. They have sets, and we would have to work around it. Is my time up? Okay, and we can see the Nautilus room, the acoustics are not really appropriate here. Thank you very much, and I do appreciate what you do. Even the times I don't agree with you, I do appreciate you.
We appreciate you too. Thank you.
Jean Seeger. I just have one comment. I'm looking at this chart and I see that the acoustics visual performance ranking by the consultant, 1 worst to 5 best, is 1. on this option. So I really think that's one reason not to do it.
I will say, in a past life, we did kind of try to remove this as an option, but there was one council member that wanted to keep considering it, so it is being considered still. Did anyone else wish to comment on this last option, the Grand Room of the Spreckles Center? All right. So there is one last thing I want you to think about, the room that we're in. In other words, the room that we're in gives you some idea of what our community had dreamed up, say around the year 2000. And this room wasn't always called the Nautilus Room. When it was being planned, Tom Spisak called this room the Great Room. Because from his point of view, we didn't have a room like the one we're sitting in that could be big enough to have weddings and big events and so on. And I love this room. I think it's a great room, but it has its limitations, that it's kind of similar to the Spreckles Center in that you can partition this room in half. So in this half, you can kind of see a more vaulted ceiling, but in the middle, it's a little inadequate. And when you really try to use this entire room for something big, you're going to have some acoustic issues, because we had to make it kind of like a Swiss Army knife. We had to give it so many functions that it was a jack of all trades and a master of none. I tell you that because the Winn Room was designed for a certain purpose that's built around its current size of, let's say, 100 people or so. So part of what the City Council is going to have to decide is, within the function of all of our rooms, all of our spaces, all of what the public can access, what does the City Council think is the proper policy for that room at its current size? And do we kind of need to update who we are as a city and say that, you know, what we had hoped this great room would accomplish, maybe it didn't accomplish everything we wanted. And again, maybe what we want to accomplish with a mix of rooms, whether it's the Spreckles Center, this one, the Winn Room, we're not accomplishing it. I mean, those are discussions the council needs to have, and then we're ultimately going to have to make a decision about where does the Winn Room fit in that. What do we expect out of a second baseman, or whatever position the Winn Room is on our team. So more to come, but you know, I guess that's the last thought I want to leave you with, that we're sitting in a room that hopefully is pretty close to what those council members and mayors wanted this room to be at the time. And obviously we're all sitting here because the Winn Room isn't there. And at the minimum, it's going to get an improvement, but maybe at the maximum, it's going to be a very different room. I don't know what to tell you yet. But the next time the council, you know, hears this report or talks about the Winn Room, hopefully we'll get a little bit closer to figuring out what the council's policy expectation is for the Winn Room, how many people we think it needs to seat, or what have you. So more to come. I do want to give you one last chance to comment. I'm going to reopen oral communications, just because, again, I think Mr. Myers had actually expressed that we didn't really clarify, perhaps to the public's satisfaction, what this meeting was supposed to accomplish. So again, if there's anything else that you want to comment on about the Winn Room, I'll give you one last opportunity now. Again, you would need to state your name, limit your comments to 3 minutes. If there's something that you haven't had a chance to say, did anyone want to throw one last remark out there for us to consider? Again, this is oral communications I've reopened.
All right, I'll officially reopen them. Thank you. Meredith Buck, again, thank you so much. I just had one comment on option 4 on the seating with 200 seats. And I didn't really touch upon that earlier, but that is a perfect number. I know in the past a lot of people have commented on that for performances. Don just made a great point about the Coronado Performing Arts Center being over 500 seats and feeling empty. And as we put on the film festival over 5 days, but we're throughout the year we have programming. But those 5 days, I am so intimately involved with every space that is possibly available on this island. This year we're moving our Shorts Fest to the Hotel Del because the Winn is no longer able to accommodate anything. But that 200 seat is perfect. And just, I've had no less than 5 individuals and organizations in the community reach out to me to see if they could use the Village Theater because it has 190 seats. And that's just been in the last probably, I'd say 5 or 6 months. And that seems to be a sweet spot. So there is a need. I feel that this isn't a scenario of if we build it, they'll come. We're already here. We're already taking over. There's such a great need for that particular number in that particular space. So I just wanted to, add my comments and 2 cents to that as well. but it just seems to be just a wonderful sweet spot. And I really feel that there would be so much more creative use and so much more that the community could do across the spectrum, not just the arts, but the school, other organizations, other nonprofits. So that's my final input on that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you're tired of me by now, but just one final recap. And that is, first of all, I love this room as well. But speaking as a member of the Cultural Arts Commission, I have a very difficult time scheduling any kind of concert. It's where can we have it? That we can have a big enough orchestra and that we can have a big enough audience. It's extremely difficult working around the scheduling of the main stage theater at the school and the grand room. And unfortunately, as much as I love this room, I'm here for dine and dance in this room, and we love it, but it's too dead for musical performance. So I spend so much time trying to find an appropriate venue for people. Option 4, let me just recap. The role of the library in the 21st century is a community hub. Option 4 would allow 4 community groups at the same time to have meetings in the Winn Room, because it could be divided into 4 parts. It could also have 200 seats, so we're not missing out on some of the people that would love to come here and perform for Coronado, but can't because their publisher wants a minimum of 200 people. It would also be much more ADA compliant if we expanded to option 4. It would offer so many more uses. Here's the thing. This is a unique opportunity that we have. We don't want lipstick on a pig. At some point, the Winn Room will have to be redone if we only go with options 1 or 2, and think how much more it's going to cost. How many times have you have all been on council before, and Tina, you will be privy to this information too. How many times have you looked at something and decided not to do it? Well, it costs so much, the community is just not on board with it because they're concerned about the cost. And then you finally reach a point where you do have to do something, and then how much more is it going to cost? And you say, if only. It's like me saying, had we only bought our home here in 2000 when we were here, instead of just before the pandemic, we could have saved so much money. So I would urge you to leave a wonderful legacy on what the council did and make the decision to envision the future and think long-term rather than short-term. And as far as the trees, this next part of this would be fixing the park on the outside. I will promise anyone the loss of 3 trees, we're going to have more, but they will be the proper trees that will work within the existing canopy. And not all those trees were planted with that in mind. There wasn't that kind of information from arborists when some of those trees were planted. We also have Spreckles Park right across the street. I just don't see how a few trees, considering this whole island and how many trees we have, are going to make that much of a difference. Many people want to leave things the same, but we do still have to look to the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I say one more thing?
You can't unless Bill Beasley's invited. Please, defer first.
You started it, Casey. You said we could keep coming back. Doug St. Dennis. I wanted to clarify something. One of the first speakers said, why should we make a room for outside people to pay and come here? Why do we want that in Coronado? And my thinking is we have a library director, Sean Briley, who is visionary. And if you people understood how many wonderful performers, world-class performers and lecturers and authors contact him saying, we would love to come to Coronado, and what do you have? Where can we be? And they require at least 200 seats. So that's one thing. And is it true that somebody pays to do that? I don't know how it works. I mean, the Winn Room is free to us, and it's the only free space for us, for Coronado citizens. So, you know, the wrong idea when we first started talking about this, people were saying, why do we want to spend a lot of money just for the 5-day film festival? You know, why would we do that? Well, of course, it's not just for the 5-day film festival. That would be fabulous for the 5-day film festival, I have to say. But it's so much more than that. And I just want to keep using the word that all of us loudmouths are saying, which is vision. We just have to open our minds to what it could be and not stop at anything less, is my thought. I hope you can convince the council of that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Good job.
I'm Bonnie Kerr. I just want you to clarify something for me. When people use the library facilities, including the Winn Room, are they all free?
When you're done, I'll clarify. We can have it back and forth. You can make your comments or questions, and then I'll answer. Did you have anything else you want to comment before I answer your question? Do you have anything else you want to say before I answer your question? You get one crack to speak for 3 minutes.
Well, generally I'm in favor of, if you want to know which option I'm in favor of, I'm generally in favor of 4.
Okay. Well, okay, so I have to ask you to sit down if you're done speaking, but I'll answer your question.
And, I mean, the reason I like 4, I mean, I feel that the city has plenty of money. Because they always have all these tourists coming in from Discover Coronado. And they're all paying TOT. So I'm assuming the city has a lot of money. I don't really know that, but that's my assumption. And I do think, I like the design of 4, and so I am in favor of 4 and making something bigger. But if anybody was to use it, option 4, do they have to pay for it?
So again, I just wanted the format of our meeting. You have 3 minutes to share your comments. We absorb what you're saying. There's not usually a lot of back and forth because we're not allowed to do that under how the Brown Act works, but I will answer the question you've posed. Right now, the Winn Room is free. So we're talking about how big should the Winn Room, how big should it be? And anytime this has come up to the council, we have reiterated to the extent we can, we're still committed to a free Winn Room. There has been some talk about, are you changing that policy by having an insurance requirement? Every other thing in the city, whatever its cost, requires a certain amount of insurance to indemnify the city. I mean, if you have an event and you've used one of our rooms and something goes south, you know, someone's gonna sue. They're gonna sue everyone, including us. So as just a matter of like practicality in the world we live in, the city generally requires you to have a 1-day insurance policy that covers the city. So that's another discussion that's already been had at the library board and eventually needs to come back to the council. But I would just tell you, generally speaking, the council is committed to keeping that room free. Also, there are various laws that govern libraries, and so again, generally speaking, whatever you're doing at the library needs to be free. It's not always clear because one of our rules is if you use the Winn Room and you're using it for free, you can't make money off of it. But we've created some exceptions where people have. So I think we're going to need to make sure that it's clear to ourselves as well as the public that again, if we say this room's free and you can't be monetizing it, then if we're creating exceptions where we're saying, well, this group's having a concert, we want you to be able to make money, we're going to have to be clear what that policy is and that it's legal to enforce that. But in any event, we're still looking at the Winn Room being free, and generally things in the library are required to be free as part of various laws around the state of California. So more to come on that. But again, there was a little bit of confusion. We are talking about if you had a bounce house in Sparkles Park, you have to have a 1-day insurance policy that it covers the city. So whatever the Winn Room is about to become in the future, we want to make sure that any group that comes in, whether it's an author, a performance group, whatever they do, if someone has an accident and they turn around and sue the city of Coronado, we want to make sure the city of Coronado is covered by an insurance policy on such an event. All right, did anyone else wish to comment under oral communications? Phil, thank you for being so patient.
Thank you very much. Phil Garn. I think something that we need to talk about is the cost of construction and kicking this project down the road. I think if we'd done this in 2021, it would have been probably a lot cheaper. You keep kicking it down the road, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So you could see option 1 or 2 being as expensive as option 4 is right now. I think as far as funding, another source, we talked about TOT, transient occupancy tax, but we also need to talk about cost of homes in Coronado. If you haven't walked around your neighborhood or taken a bike ride, look at all the homes for sale and see how they compare to what you paid back in 1952 or 1992, like me. I know from talking with my neighbors how much they're paying for property taxes versus what I'm paying. And again, I just saw my old commanding officer's home get scraped down to the lot. He was probably paying about $2,000 a year in property taxes. That's probably going to be about $50,000 to $60,000, and that's just one. We have 3 big holes on my block, so they're going to be a lot more, and my next door neighbor's selling for twice what he paid for it. So there's a lot of income that comes in. Finally, I just want to underscore the vision aspect. This is an opportunity to develop a multifunctional use community center at the heart of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But I live on 6th Street, and we are inundated with parking from the schools, and that's 7 days a week. There are soccer games and every other game starting Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock that go all day. Plan 4 looks great, but where are all these people going to park? I just think the council needs to consider that, because there is no parking as it is. Everybody complains about it, but you add 200 or 100 square feet. You have plans to use this facility for large organizations to use. Where's everybody going to park?
Thank you. All right, it looks like we're all done for today. Again, I want to thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces. Oh yeah, I'll come right to you in a second. I do want to say I see a lot of familiar faces, and you've been to many of our meetings, so I do want to thank you for your participation. I do hope you feel that you've been heard. That's been the goal of this subcommittee, is to make sure that you've had a chance to let us know what you think. Ms. Downey, I'll hold this.
A couple of things. I joined the subcommittee late, obviously, because I was reelected in 2022. But I've been part of this through all the years we've done it as somebody just sitting as a person, but somebody who only lives 6 blocks from the library, and somebody that has used it, as many of you, in practically every capacity you could possibly use it in. And one of the things that it hurts me when I hear so many people, in their earnestness to get us to spend more money for option 4, keep saying what an embarrassment the room is. So I asked the shades down here to show you what happens when you use the Winn Room, and it will still be the same, is that it was built with glass all the way around because it wasn't meant to be a performing arts center. If it was, it would have had acoustic tiles on the ceiling, it would have had full walls so that it would help with sound. No, it was meant to have all glass so you could appreciate you were in the middle of a park. Now I understand, and I haven't made any decisions which options I'm supporting, but the problem is every room we built in this town, we did the same way. That's why city council meetings sometimes are hard, because we have all that beautiful glass in the back and everything in here is. So we have to ask ourselves, what do we want? Do we want to say, really, we're going to make this room a performing arts center. We don't care what its purpose was supposed to be. We don't care about the view that it had. We want to do everything possible to cover up the walls so it'll act like it's supposed to be for perfect acoustics. And I don't think that's really what we want. And when we discussed the fact that maybe there's 4 meetings that go on at the same time, I thought that was great. I thought that would really solve a lot because we don't have enough places. But I was told you won't be able to have 4 meetings going on at the same time because they will all hear each other. It is not going to be acoustically set up. When I asked to use the Spreckles room, I'll just tell you, just in the last year, my daughter's getting married, we're using the rehearsal space there for the rehearsal dinner, and I said, I don't need this whole room, why don't we just put the separator in there? And they said, oh no, you can't do that, everybody will hear, we can't have 2 events, you're gonna have to pay for the whole thing. Okay, but it just proved that these separators just don't work the way we all hope they would to make more space. So please understand, as we're going through this, there are a lot of issues out there that have to go into the right decision. I don't know what the right decision is. The whole council is going to hear all of these, but we are where we are because of what our visions were. It was to enjoy the surroundings that we are blessed to live in. And so how we're going to make that work for something that doesn't care where they are? I mean, let's face it, a performing arts center is better off out in El Cajon, far away from any view, so they can make it as tall as they want it. They can put whatever they want. That's not where we are. So we have to figure out what fits for the community and for the visionary needs of this community for the next 50 years. So I do appreciate it. I heard some new things I have not heard all these years today, so I am so glad we moved into this room, not just because we couldn't fit in the Winn Room, but I was worried about recording you. I wanted to make sure all of you and everything you said would be recorded, because it is important for the people not here on the council or the community to know we heard you. We understood each of your different inputs, because they were. We heard some really interesting things I hadn't heard before. So thank you for coming, but we're here not because the Winn Room would have been terrible. We probably could have fit everybody, but I wanted to make sure we could record it, and the city, when you do these kind of processes, wanted to put storyboards. You know, that's the way the government likes to do these things. So we needed to have a place for the storyboards for you to see them. So that's why we're here. So thank you very much, and I'm sure you will all be here whenever we schedule the next meeting for the city council. So thank you very much for your participation.
I'm going to let Ms. Stanley have the final word. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.